All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, guys. Welcome to After Further Review with Alex and Frank. This is our first attempt at a podcast. We're pretty excited. Are you pretty stoked?
I can barely contain myself. I am bursting with excitement. If you can't tell.
I know you guys can't see him, but he looks pretty excited. We've been talking about this for a long time.
Yes.
Frankie and I were coworkers, and we were fast friends after a few fights about sports.
Absolutely.
So we're excited to be podcasting.
Absolutely. Alex is the daughter of a prominent Denver Bronco offensive lineman, played with John Elway during that championship run back in the late 90s. And
Can we call it a legacy?
All right, pump the brakes. 5 minutes into the show, she's talking legacy talk. And on the other side, we have a Patriots fan, which is why I take any legacy talk sensitively. But anyway, she also currently researches for her father, Mark Schlereth, and does research for Troy Aikman for their in-the-booth jobs. They're calling games. Troy Aikman's all Dallas and your dad's all Denver, is that right?
No, they all have different games week to week, but I'm learning a lot about football that I never knew that I would be knowing about. But it's great for me because I'm a huge sports fan and live and breathe it, and I know you do too, even though it's a little biased sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, what you're getting with us is they're passionate sports fans, but we also have the education behind it. We do research. We read every article, especially Alex. She has to read every article. I just enjoy it. I'm a sports enthusiast. We are tackling the NFL, but we can do any sport, but it's NFL season, so why would we deny it? Lots to talk about from week 2. We should probably just get right into it. What are some of the storylines we're looking at from week 2?
So, well, we've got a lot to talk about. I guess the biggest stories to me are the Philly-Tampa game. New England-Jacksonville was pretty interesting to me, especially the stuff that's going on in New England right now.
Just hearing you talk about it already, it's like week 2, and this is like kind of crazy already. Like, we're off to a hot start here.
There's a lot of stuff going on. The Rams look really good. The Cardinals look very bad.
They look very bad.
And then we had Seattle and Chicago last night, Monday Night Football. That I thought was an interesting game. And I know we spoke a little bit yesterday about the Bears, and I'm thinking that they're kind of the real deal, finally.
Yeah, I think
it's been a while.
The long-term talk, like season view of things, I think the Chicago and Seattle storylines are really intriguing.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to bite off there. I mean, we are focusing on week 2, turning into week 3, but that's something to keep an eye on and to monitor as the season continues, because I mean, the addition of Kalil Mack in Chicago and just the falling apart of Seattle right now is just something. It's kind of, we got to see 2 polar opposite things happening on the same field last night, and I think that was that's something to keep an eye on there.
Okay, I'm going to start, though, with Minnesota and Green Bay.
Oh, that was a hell of a game.
Yeah, so after week 1, obviously, aaron-rodgers signs that $134 million contract. We saw him get hurt in week 1. Multiple reports saying that he should be sitting out for at least 2 months. He is having none of that.
I want to go on the record. I thought he was faking it. All right, keep going.
He's like, I'm going to play. And I'm sure there's a little pressure there, obviously, because he just got paid $134 million.
There have to be, yeah.
But Minnesota Green Bay ended in a tie. And I guess my question to you is, how do we feel? This is our second tie in 2 weeks of football. How do we feel about the tie in football? I hate it.
I hate it. I don't like it. I know we shouldn't be in agreement on our first topic, but I hate it. It's not for me.
No.
I mean, that was an incredible game. I mean, you could say what you want about the Cleveland-Pittsburgh game, whether you think it was incredible or not. I guess history will tell that story. But watching the Minnesota-Green Bay game and the way that was shaking out, you wanted a result there. That was a fantastic game with fantastic plays being made all around.
Kirk Cousins was on my bench, by the way, in fantasy, and I played Tom Brady.
Ouch.
And wasn't a great decision.
I mean, hindsight 2020. It's never a bad decision, but I get it. That's a tough one. I don't even know if I would have done that one, to be quite honest with you.
Tough.
this is Brady with sort of the most limited weapons he's had. But that's a whole other story.
We'll get into that. Okay, so we both hate the tie. That's really all there is to talk about with that.
I mean, I guess the only solution with that would be to change the overtime rules, which we saw them do years ago, and there's never a happy solution. Everybody's been calling for them to move towards what college does. I don't see it happening because I just can't justify lining a NFL team up on the 25 and letting them... The league is built to score. It's almost automatic from that point. So
right.
I don't think that's realistic. I think people should throw that idea out the window, but there's got to be something better than this.
Yeah.
You can't have a week 2 tie between 2 Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just can't happen.
I don't like it either.
No.
Okay, and speaking of ties, so in week 1 we saw Pittsburgh and Cleveland tie. Cleveland nearly beat the Saints week 2. I guess my question is Cleveland, are they going to win a game this year? I think we're seeing a better Cleveland team, but Zane Gonzalez, their kicker, who it was reported today that he had a groin injury, he missed 4 kicks, one of which would have sent the game into overtime.
That's such a Cleveland thing to do.
It's a very Cleveland thing to do. Yeah. Like, it's like, oh, of course, Cleveland blew it because that's just what they do.
Cleveland, yeah.
But is this a better Cleveland team than we've seen in the past?
I definitely do, and I just want to go on the record saying here, I am in a suicide pool each week, and I picked New Orleans the first week, and they got Fitzpatrick. Yeah, and that knocked me out. So I bought back in, and then who do I pick again? I picked New Orleans in because surely they can't lose 2 weeks in a row. I'm sitting there in the third quarter, just shaking my head like, what's going on? Up is down, left is right. Yeah. Nothing makes sense. If you're telling me right now that the thing that will push Cleveland one way or the other for getting a win or not getting a win is their kicker, I think that could only apply to a team like Cleveland. I mean, like the only team that's like kicker dependent, and I just can't believe that will be the case. Hopefully, that's his worst game. I'm not necessarily rooting for Cleveland. I'm not rooting against them. They've provided me with so much great humor and comedy over the years that they've paid in full. So if they start winning this year, I'll accept it. I always call them the Patriot farm system.
Yeah, and it's like you never knew that a kicker was so important until you miss 4 kicks and one to send a game into overtime. I mean, I guess it does count to have a good kicker.
It absolutely counts. And some teams actually have 2 now with the wacky kickoff rules. That's a whole other thing. So you have these specialists, these long ball kickers. The league is in a very weird place, and I think never more evident than when the Browns are living and dying by their kicker. But at least they're in the discussion. I mean, we're talking about them, right?
Yeah.
Kicker or not kicker, and this is all before Baker Mayfield has even hit the field.
Yes.
So I would say their stock is trending up. Okay. I'll give them that. I can't say they're going to get a win yet. They're still the Browns.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't believe we just talked about the Browns for that long.
Probably too long.
Probably too long. So that's for you Cleveland fans if you guys are listening.
Hell of a part. Right out the gates with some heavy Browns talk. That's what you're going to get
heavy.
Here, folks. Yeah.
All those Clevelanders.
Yeah.
Just so happy somebody's talking about them.
Yeah. Well, you got to go to the shiny objects first. Obviously, Cleveland is just,
I mean, good or bad, they're probably just happy to be talked about.
It's fine. It's week 2. This is week 2 talk. You get the Cleveland Browns. Everybody knows sort of like the top teams in the league. It's time to talk the Browns.
Yeah.
You might never get this chance again, so let's take advantage.
Like you said, I think they're trending up.
Trending up, exactly.
Okay, let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
These are 2 teams.
Yeah. This was a high-scoring game. I believe the score was 42-37 with KC coming out on the winning side.
That's about right, yeah.
Patrick Mahomes threw for 6 touchdowns.
Stud. He's a stud. I'm on the Mahomes train. Don't care about KC all too much, but this is like they've been stuck with Alex Smith, so it's like we can't have Alex Smith syndrome here where somebody dressed in a Kansas City uniform that can run in the pocket and throw, they're going to have success in that offense because Andy Reid knows how to call plays. There is just like a cavalcade of weapons there. I mean, we can go up and down the list, but that offense is absolutely stacked. Good offensive line. So he's set up for success. But you can't take anything away from him. Like, good players are supposed to dominate. Good teams are supposed to dominate. So you can't take away from them when they perform well. And I don't think it's a flash in the pan. I think when you break records as a, in the first 2 weeks of the season for touchdown passes. I think there's something to pay attention to there. It's a lot like Deshaun Watson last year before the injury. It's sort of got that feel to it, and he's got the team, at least offensively. Yeah, he has a team. Do you think that he can take them all the way, though?
I don't like to say that because they're also an AFC West team, and I'm a huge Broncos fan.
It's true, yeah. Sore spot for you.
So I'm not super excited about it, but it's good to see a kid like that go out there and play well. And I'm always rooting for those guys. You don't see a lot of quarterbacks that are early on in their career like he is and are able to perform with a really good team around him. I mean, that's a lot of pressure for a kid. So, I mean, it's good to see him perform like that. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I think it's pressure, but if he can maybe, because he seems like a humble dude. There's a couple of these guys out there, like the Sam Darnolds of the world, that just have that demeanor that gives you confidence. We've seen it too many times where the prima donna quarterback comes in. Anybody can flash, especially in the first couple of weeks where it's, basically preseason still. But what I like to look to, what gives me confidence, is his demeanor, the way he comports himself. You don't hear him in the headlines a lot, and that's good. I mean, we'll see if it lasts. It's 2 weeks. I'm interested to see what you think about them going into Mile High. I think that's where the test is, because Denver came into this year with not a lot of high hopes. I mean, I think they came in under the radar, but they're looking pretty good right now.
I mean, we'll talk about that, but I don't think they look amazing.
You're their toughest critic, as I am with the Patriots. It's always from looking inward out. You see all the problems. But I would say you can never count out Denver, and that's that in that division. Those guys beat each other up. It could come down to those matchups. Yeah. And the Mile High advantage.
For sure. Okay, on the other side of that game, we had Pittsburgh. And
that's a fun team.
Yeah, okay, so we're still without Le'Veon Bell. And James Conner.
Do you miss Le'Veon Bell?
I mean, you know what? I don't know. I mean, I think James Conner's performance last week in week 1 kind of made people forget that Le'Veon Bell was even holding out. I mean, he rushed for almost 200 yards.
And you tell that to the people who drafted him number 1 overall.
Of course, but, really cool story, like with the cancer stuff and coming back and being able to, play like that. So for a human interest side of things, like, it's a really cool story.
I mean, they put up 37 points. Granted, Casey's defense right now is in a lot of hurt. Literally in a lot of hurt. No Eric Berry, and they're just decimated. Lost a lot of players. Just weak at the cornerback position. Non-existent at the safety position. So they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. So thank God that Mahomes is setting records. Right. But when you talk about Pittsburgh, systematically, that offense over the last, under the Roethlisberger era, it's a lot. I always look at Roethlisberger a lot like Phil Mickelson, and the fact that since Peyton Manning left the AFC, really the next best quarterback you can point to in the AFC is Pittsburgh, and they've been a contender every year, and they're always the favorite to knock off the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. Right. But why? But why have they not? He got there before, and under their era, they put up all these offensive stats. So is it a product of the system? Is it Roethlisberger? Is it Antonio Brown? I mean, what is it? You always think of Pittsburgh as a defensive team, but when you look at it, they really are an offensive team over the last, I don't know, probably a good 5 years. Last time, since they lost Paul Malo. Yeah. It was the last time I thought of them as a defensive team. So
the thing is, their offense has run pretty smoothly for a good amount of years.
Right. So
like you've never really questioned their offense. Like it was like they're always going to get it done. They always do. And so I guess it's kind of weird to not see them win games and not figure it out. Although it was a very close game and they still put up a lot of points.
But you think Le'Veon Bell is what pushes them over the edge, or is there something else going on here? I mean, the running back position largely, it's taking on a new life in the NFL. There's a lot of running back by committee. You don't want to invest a lot of money in a position that gets hurt so often and their lifespan is short, or their shelf life is short. I mean, it seems absurd that a first-round pick in drafts all around the country, for many people, somebody who puts up the numbers like Le'Veon Bell and for the contract he's demanding, it's crazy to think that Pittsburgh could cut ties with him, but I almost wouldn't fault them for doing it. You've seen what Connor can do. Yeah. I mean, is it him or the system? Who cares? It's working. right?
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, it's results. And so why have a guy who comes in and affects the locker room that way? You know, the offensive linemen are not happy with Bell right now. You're having success without him. He might hold out until, week 10? I mean, why do you want that headache? I mean, is he a player that you would cut ties with? Would you feel comfortable doing that if you're Pittsburgh?
Yeah, see, I don't know.
It's tough.
It's Le'Veon Bell.
It's Le'Veon Bell, right. So, you know, will he improve this offense? I think it's a no-doubter. I think we have to remember that it's a no-doubter that, like, if Le'Veon Bell comes back into this lineup, like, he's going to outperform what Connor could do. I mean, you just have to believe that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you probably would sound like a fool if you thought otherwise. But is it so much? You know, are you talking about you get Le'Veon Bell back and you're a contender for the Super Bowl? You know, I think they're there anyway. I think they could make a case for being in the AFC Championship game without him.
Yeah. Okay, and let's talk about Antonio Brown because there's been some social media stuff happening with him.
Yeah, to me, this is more important. To me, this is the bigger story, honestly.
So, I mean, obviously, Pittsburgh likes to win, and they've tied and then they lost. But this Antonio Brown stuff, you know, he said...
Well, he basically said that he didn't say he wanted to be
traded.
traded.
Trade me and let's find out. Something to that effect.
That's like a threat. That's like a schoolyard threat type. That's what that sounds like. That's an emotional reaction.
Yes. So that's what he said. He replied to somebody on Twitter that said AB needs to thank his lucky stars because he was drafted by a team that had Ben, and Ben got AB paid. You know darn well he wouldn't put up those numbers for other teams, and Antonio Brown responded with trade me, let's find out. Yeah. So this is an uproar.
There's a lot here. I mean, I love this because this is the conversation right here. I mean, there's a million different ways to look at a lot of opinions. And this is a situation where you can have multiple opinions that are right at the same time, and they all kind of really mean different things. For starters, I think it's an emotional reaction. That wasn't just a regular Twitter a tweet by anyone. That was was it former?
It was a former Steelers employee,
right? And
Antonio Brown thought that was insulting to him, and like you said, it was an emotional reaction.
Well, I agree.
Then Drew Rosenhaus, his agent, came out and said it wasn't that he wanted to get traded. It was just him responding to a person that he knows. It was not directed toward a trade or wanting to be traded. So he said here, any idea he was asking for a trade is not accurate.
Well, I mean, that's Drew Rosenhaus, so we have to take that with a grain of salt.
Very diplomatic.
Yeah, he's paid to make responses like that. I'll take Antonio Brown's responses, emotional responses, like, you know, where they say there's always a little bit of truth in jest. I think it's sort of that level of there's always a little bit of truth in an emotional reaction like that. Like, does he really want to be traded? I don't think so. I think he's got a good situation. I mean, you're talking about a guy, you know, in Madden commercials. He's got a good thing going on. He's got the star quality. He's not buried in Cleveland. Let's be real about it. He's got a contending team. It could be worse.
Right.
Any team going to pay for him now probably isn't a contender. So the reality and the economics of it speak to him not being traded. I don't think he wants to. But is there a little truth? I mean, is he frustrated? I think 100%. I think him missing Monday's practice is not a coincidence. That personal matter, I don't buy it. But be that as it may, do I think it's an issue long-term for Pittsburgh? I actually don't. I think you've already seen the wheels in motion of correcting it. The Rosenhaus statement did more to help the perception of what's going on in-house rather than dispelling any lies or rumors. I think all it did was just cool the waters.
Yeah, I don't think Antonio Brown's going anywhere.
No.
I think he's fine. I think it was emotional, and I think there's frustration there because they haven't been winning.
But you take Antonio Brown out of that lineup, you know, going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a believer that Ben Roethlisberger makes Antonio Brown. No way. I mean, I am so far away from that. I think you could put, you know, Pat Peterson from Buffalo thrown to Antonio Brown. He's going to put up some stats. Like,
yeah,
I don't think that's Ben.
No.
You know,
I mean, it helps to have a good quarterback, absolutely. But I think if Antonio Brown went somewhere that wasn't an elite quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger, he would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Antonio Brown single-handedly take over the game where Roethlisberger puts it not even in his zip code and he finds a way to, you know, go over a guy and get it. That's not Ben. That's AB.
Yeah.
You know, he needs a better haircut. I don't know what's going on the sideline. Did you see that? I mean, maybe that's the deal.
Maybe it's the hair.
He looks in the mirror and just doesn't know what to think.
I don't know. Maybe when you have a bad hair day, you don't play well.
I think he thinks it's good.
If you don't look good, you don't feel good. You don't feel good, you don't play good.
There used to be a cartoon back in the day I used to watch. It was Wayne Gretzky, Bo Jackson, Michael Jordan. Oh, and there was another one, like some random like tennis player or something. And there was this cartoon about them. They go and solve crimes and like save the world. It was the funniest thing. The modern day one with like the funny haircuts. You got Antonio Brown, Ezekiel Elliott. We have to bring back Palomalu for the perm.
Odell Beckham's hair.
Odell Beckham, right? How could I forget? What am I doing?
It's like there's something happening there.
I would call the show NFL Divas. Is that appropriate?
Sure. I mean, we could get a real house husbands of the NFL situation going.
All right. I think we're going to give away state secrets here. We should keep that in our pocket because that could be a great idea.
Yeah, don't steal our ideas.
Absolutely. I think Antonio Brown's going to right the ship. I think the people pissed off the most about the Antonio Brown situation are fantasy owners. He put up 15 points last week.
100%.
Like, I'd be effing pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but they got the rest of the season to rebound. It's early. They're going to right the ship. They're Pittsburgh. They're going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think they've got to worry about KC. I think that's a real threat. But I think they're going to be all right. I think Tennessee's
they're going to be fine.
Yeah, Tennessee's a joke at this point. Houston, no, I'm not buying that. So
there's a lot of things.
So they're going to be there.
Yeah,
you might have to play wild card weekend, but they'll be there. Le'Veon Bell probably will come back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Le'Veon Bell wanting to sit out for the whole entire season.
Yeah,
I mean, I've known some football players in my day, and they want to play.
He definitely wants to play. He's not wrong. I mean, there's the whole other side of it of like, I can't blame Le'Veon. It's a punishing position.
Yeah.
And they run him 30 times a game. That's over 300 carries a year. I mean, he's got a real gripe. Every game that he's paying to miss these games. But at the same time, he could be extending his career. And it could be a shrewd but smart move for him. So you can't entirely fault Le'Veon Bell here. It's one of those unique situations of he's the running back position on a team that has a viable backup and a really good system. So there's just a lot to talk about, a lot to consider.
Yeah. Okay, let's try to unpack this Philly.
Oh my God. Okay,
Tampa
so we're getting
Bay
to it.
game.
We're going to get to it. Okay.
So Philly lost to Tampa Bay. Fitzmagic is just...
It's real.
It's real.
It's happening.
It is real.
It's happening, yeah. I thought Conor McGregor was playing in the league all of a sudden. He gave up boxing. He's trying another sport.
He's going to be a quarterback now. After the game, the press conference, his outfit. Did you see his outfit?
That might be the story of the week right there.
Was the outfit.
He
was wearing like a bomber jacket that was unbuttoned pretty low with gold chains. He's got a full beard.
Yeah.
Glasses on, just as cool as ever, looking so much like Conor McGregor. I mean, it was all over social media, people being like, wow, Fitzmagic is real.
And you know what? This is the way he needs to be. And, I used to have this LeBron theory of like, because I couldn't stand LeBron for a long time, and as a whole other conversation, and my opinion has changed over the years, but when LeBron went to Miami, he became this public villain, but he tried to fight that image. You know what I mean? Like, he tried to be like this baby-faced hero, like relatable, and I think he's more that later on, but at the time, there was a lot of visceral in the country against him.
Yeah.
On multiple sides, and I just use that now as like, sometimes when a stigma has been put on you or a persona, you should turn it up. You should play to it,
Yeah.
And I love
just
it.
Embrace it.
Embrace it. That's the word.
You have to.
You have to embrace it. And I just think there's enough sarcasm with it. There's enough seriousness. But it would be nothing if he wasn't putting up the stats. I mean, he's lighting it up.
Right. I mean, he threw 4 touchdowns to 4 different receivers on Sunday.
Insane. Well, he's Harvard grad, so he's got it worked out mentally. That's not the issue.
I gotta say, I love it.
I love it. Yeah.
Because, I mean, with the NFL now and all the rules and all the stuff and, like, there's been so much bad around it, I think it's great that there's, like, a little lightheartedness, even if it's just an outfit at a press conference from Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. But the thing that's real, the thing that's very real about it is, like, you love it, I love it. I mean, everybody loves Fitzmagic right now. Well, maybe not everybody, but what does Tampa Bay, what do the higher-ups in Tampa Bay think about this? They've got Jameis Winston and I call him Jameis.
That's not his name.
I know. But they've got...
Can you spell it, though?
They've got crab legs. Yeah, Jameis. That's
good job. Wow.
I know.
Frankie's a very bad speller.
Terrible
so
speller.
I make fun of him constantly for it.
I have a hard time with my own name. That's how bad it is.
He doesn't even say his last name right.
All right, that's
It's
nonsense.
O'Leary.
O'Leary. Okay. Back to Jameis. Jameis Winston. Crab leg stealer. I don't really like him. I don't. But here's my whole thing about the Fitzmagic Jameis Winston conflict.
You really can't say it.
Oh, people are just like the hair standing up on the back of their neck right
Jameis.
now. Okay, fine. You're not going to make me do it.
Okay.
That guy.
I'm not going to fight this fight with you.
Here's the thing. Pure talent, I don't think there's a conversation to be had. Winston definitely has that in spades over Fitzpatrick. Mentally, I definitely... And there's two ways to look at mentally. There's actual smarts and then there's football smarts. I actually think Winston is underrated in that. I think he is actually incredibly smart when it comes to football smarts. I think he just hasn't made the right life choices. That's, the modern day football player diva. Like, he just falls right into that role. And when he speaks about doing good things and he's on a better track, the problem I have with him is I don't believe him, and I judge athletes off their press conferences. I'm sorry, like that's a big factor for me, and to a fault. Like,
what a weird thing.
But it's so influential. Like, this is why I hate Cam Newton. But anyway, stud on the field, it gets in front of a microphone, and everything just falls to you know what. And I think that's a real deal. I think who cares about that? The face of the company that he works for, the Tampa Bay Bucks, if they want to ride this Fitzmagic thing out, they're going to come out looking really good.
I think they should ride the wave. As long as he keeps winning, I mean, don't you want to win?
But the crash is coming.
Win above everything.
It's like being on a private jet. You're getting, champagne. You're in first class. The ride's going good. But would you get on that plane if you knew it was going to crash?
But how do you know it's going to crash necessarily? Like...
Maybe I don't know, but I'm like
don't know it yet.
99% sure. I mean, we've seen this before.
Yeah, but I would say stick with Fitzpatrick until shit goes awry, and then assess.
Okay, so there's a lot there. There's a lot there in what you just said. So does the manner in which he loses...
Jameis Winston comes back when? Week 4?
Right. So you already have the sample size of 4 weeks. He's already 500 at worst.
Right.
So you can start.
So
there.
I would say this: if you're 2-2 at the end of Jameis Winston's suspension, play Jameis.
Okay,
and see how it goes. But I'm saying if Ryan Fitzpatrick wins the next 2 games without Jameis Winston, I think it would be stupid to play Jameis Winston over Fitzmagic.
Well, it's a good thing we have these other 2 weeks. I'll say why, because we already talked on before. The first couple games of the season are sort of glorified preseason. There's so much unworked. I mean, even with the Rams, not playing any starters, there's just every team's got a different story. They're at a different phase of their development. Football season, as Belichick likes to say, doesn't start till after Thanksgiving. So this is a good time to find out who's gonna flourish on your system and maybe make some changes.
Right.
What Fitzpatrick has done is he's knocked off New Orleans, and he's knocked off the defending Super Bowl champs in style. Not like his defense dominated. His defense didn't. Right. He put that team on his back, him and D-Jack, and they went out and they, look like world beaters. And just saying it out loud makes me feel dirty. But it does. I can't believe it, but
those are 2 teams that... I mean...
Well, New Orleans almost lost to the Browns, so I don't know what's going on there. That's weird.
Yeah, I haven't figured it out yet.
So maybe chalk it up to beginning of the season.
Yeah.
But I would say, we'll find out a lot about Fitzmagic, obviously, over the next 2 weeks. But I'd say he wins one more game. One more. I'll give him a loss. Come on, give him a loss.
Yeah.
Give him 1 loss. See if he can pull 3 out of 4, and now we've got a real...
it's definitely something to keep our eyes on. Yeah. I'm interested.
You've got Evans as a wideout.
Right.
D-Jack. They haven't done much at the running back position, but they do have this guy, Peyton Barber. He's not a schlub. He can fill in. Aaron-Rodgers. those guys are kind of middling running backs, but that's sort of where if you don't have the top stud handful of running backs, that's kind of what you're left with.
Yeah.
So they've got this offense they can do something with. They can try to win this year. They can try to make a run for the playoffs this year. And it might be on the back of Conor McGregor.
It's early, but...
Yeah. It's very early.
We'll see.
That's another thing to revisit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the other side, you got Philly.
Yeah, I was just going to say, there's kind of a lot here. So, Philly won week 1. They lost week 2.
And that was sort of that was against Atlanta, right?
Yes.
For week 1.
I believe
yeah,
so.
And it was, coming out with the hype of dropping the banner. Actually, I think they actually dealt with that really well. The overall record.
Did that hurt you a little bit?
No, I'm over. I mean, you can't win them all. You can't win them all. And, all right. Let's just get it on the record.
I gotta tell you guys, Frankie blames me for
it's
that Patriots loss.
She invited me to this mansion party, and rule number 1 for me in Patriots games, I'm very superstitious. Rule number 1, don't go to parties. Rule number 2, don't order pizza. Okay?
There was no pizza at that party.
I know, but I broke rule number 1. I could never even get to rule number 2.
And rule number 3, don't sit in a brown room.
Don't sit in a brown room. But the thing, okay,
what
you
is
understand.
the philosophy behind the brown room?
The brown room? It started with the Celtics.
Oh.
I don't know. It just was during the Antoine Walker days. I just remember this 23-point comeback or 21-point comeback against the 76ers. Uh-huh. And it was in the playoffs, and it was when AI was on the team, and there was a whole lot going on.
But I want to say, the brown room was not chosen by me, because you got to the party before I did.
This is true.
And you chose the brown room.
But this is, you're totally, whistling past the graveyard here. I am burying the lead on this story, because the lead on this story is she invites me. See, Alex is a bougie person. She's got friends in high places. She's connected. And if you didn't know, we're broadcasting from Los Angeles. So this was, can we even say whose house it was? You think we can say? It was a well-known person's house, and there were a lot of well-known people there, but it was what you imagine a Hollywood party would be. But you're talking the Super Bowl. So I show up with a beanie with my wife, and we're in our jerseys. She's got a Gronk jersey on. I've got a throwback Tom Brady jersey on. I've got the whole bit going on.
I think you guys were the only people that were actually wearing
football
regalia.
Everyone was leather jackets and skinny jeans. And so that was...
I was not wearing that.
Yeah, but you still... Okay.
I probably had a sweatshirt on and some sneakers.
You're the daughter of an ex-NFL player, so you come with your own, you know how to do sports swag.
Yeah.
LA people in general...
They don't. You're right.
It's all about, how am I going to look in this selfie?
Yeah. Most of the time, I don't think there's even real sports fans in Los Angeles.
They weren't even watching. I mean, it was ridiculous. No one was watching. I'm
really
screaming.
Good food, though.
Yeah, we've gotten derailed here. But the point is it ruined the Super Bowl. So I'll take full credit for the Patriots losing the Super Bowl. It does sting. Never again.
Because of all of the superstitions. Okay, but let's unpack some of this Philly stuff. Okay, so they're 1-1.
Well, the point was is in week 1 they dropped the banner and they dealt with it well. I actually was. See, I like that. That was a hard game to win. It's against Atlanta. Atlanta has a lot to prove. So Atlanta was coming out the gates hot. And they've got Julio Jones. They've got Matt Ryan. They've got the backfield. They've got the talent on that team to contend with anyone. I think Philly handled that really well. So my stock is up on Philly. So I think there is, to tie back into Fitzmagic, I think that proves a little bit more for him. I think that speaks a little bit more for that this Fitzmagic might be real, is that he was able to take Philly down. The question in Philly, which I think is what you were going to get to, is now they've got a 1-1 quarterback who is last season's Super Bowl MVP.
Right.
And they're activating Wentz. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, so Carson-Wentz is medically cleared to play, and they said that they were starting him week 3. So I guess I'm thinking, is this fair? What's going to happen with Nick Foles? Like, where's he sitting now that Carson's back and going to play? And I guess it's similar, to Fitzmagic and Jameis Winston. Like, what do you really do in a situation like this? I mean,
it's tough.
It's hard. It's hard. It's like, I mean,
I can tell you what I would do, but I'm not paying the big bucks.
No, you're not. But I think it's a difficult situation to be in, because it's like, yeah, you've got the Super Bowl MVP who started the season 1-1. which is not that big of a deal.
Not that big of a deal.
To be one, it's so early in the season.
It is what it is.
It doesn't really matter.
It means nothing one way or the other. Really.
No, it doesn't. But you have Carson Wentz, who's younger, and he's back, and
you can't say they're rushing him back.
I think they're not rushing him back. I think the coaches, I don't know if they feel pressure to play Carson Wentz because, they've really stood behind him and have really been like, this is our guy. Can you feel pressure after winning the Super Bowl? I mean, are you free? Do you get like your, Monopoly get out of jail free card there? I think that there's a little pressure to still be good, to defend the championship, to go and try to win another one. I mean, that's like, I would say yes, there's a little pressure. I say there's not that much pressure because you did just win and it's there and it's under your belt and great, we won the Super Bowl. But I still think that there's like, okay, we need to perform. I'd love to hear a Philly fan's take on this. Hey, this is our MVP. I don't know. Philly fans are not great. No. They're mean Philly fans. They're going to be unhappy either way. Yes. There's no happy solution for Philly. But if Carson Wentz plays and he plays well, great. If Carson Wentz plays and he doesn't play well, I mean, does shit hit the fan then? I think you can very easily sum this question up with just the obvious answer. You won the Super Bowl and you have this young stud quarterback who's ready. You're not rushing him back, and you've seen him play. Remember when he went out, he was in the MVP conversation. I know. So I think when you just say that, it's a no-brainer, right? Then the other question is it fair to Nick Foles? Because I don't think from an establishment, from Philly's standpoint, like wins and losses, I think you almost have to say you're going to win more with Wentz. I think the move for wins is actually Wentz. I don't think you can look at Foles and look at him and honestly say, we have a better chance to win games. I think you did win games with him last year and you captured something in a bottle, but you can't look at them side by side and say you're going to win more games with Foles. The next question is it fair to Foles? And to that I say, well, who cares? Yeah. Who cares about being fair? And then at the worst, Wentz goes down again and you just take Foles off the bench, which he can do. Right. So Philly's got him by the balls. I mean, they can do whatever they want. Yeah. Know? So I think the no-brainer answer is put in Wentz. Build your dynasty, start now. Yeah. You've got the Super Bowl wrapped up from last year, which is just like, you have that in your pocket. That buys you so much time to be patient with Wentz. Right. A guy who was in the MVP conversation. So, and they went in the offseason and they loaded up that team. It's not like they lost an incredible amount of people. Right. So they're still loaded. Nelson Aguilar is blossoming. You want to build that relationship between him and Wentz. A little afraid about Ajayi because a lot of people are indifferent about Ajayi. I think he's a stud. I remember the Dolphins. He was putting up a couple years ago. He was putting up 200-yard games like it was nothing. As long as he's healthy, I think he's a stud and he can take them to the playoffs. So I think you play Wentz there. I think it just sucks for Foles, and that's just what it's going to have to be. But he had his glory. Yeah, he got it. I mean, he can't be that mad, right? He's going to get paid. He's already paid, and he won a Super Bowl. He's MVP. I mean, he's chilling. Yeah. He's honestly chilling. Fine. I mean, he wants to play. Obviously, I think that this is probably something that you expected, being Nick Foles. Like, you expected that eventually Wentz was going to come back, and he was going to get cleared to play, and they were going to play him. So, I mean, a little bit of a different mindset, obviously, but, last season he came out, he did his job, he did it well. I think, what's funny about Foles? What's funny about Foles is, he wins the Super Bowl. He's, everybody really knows who he is by name. But if I was at a bar and he, sat at the booth next to me, I wouldn't even know who the hell he was. I'd just start shit with him, probably, just like some other schmuck. It just looks like a normal... You'd get in a fight. Yeah, well... Not fit. Yeah, I'm not going out picking fights with people. I have a target on my back with my Brady jersey, but I definitely get into arguments. Bar arguments are the best arguments. This is where it all comes out because you get the real fans' perspective. That's true. There's no holds barred. That's true. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the Rams and the Cardinals. I was at that game on Sunday. My dad was in the booth. This is why you want to talk about it so much because there's stuff there, but it's not the most exciting game of the week. No, it's not. But there is exciting stuff happening, like having a good football team in LA. It's exciting to watch. It's exciting to watch Jared Goff. It's exciting to watch Todd Gurley. obviously, the conversation after last week around the Rams was they got a slow start. Sean McVay, their 32-year-old head coach, did not play a starter at all, like not for a snap in the preseason.
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
Everybody gave him a lot of shit, and he doesn't care because he's like, I'm doing things my way, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
He's like, this is how I'm going to do things. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not risking any of my starters getting hurt in the preseason. And now, obviously, they played a very, very, very bad Cardinals team. I've been reading about the Cardinals for the last 2 weeks because my dad has had the Cardinals. He had them last week and he has them again this week. A lot of problems there. Lots of problems.
Just real quick, yes or no? Do you sit Bradford?
I say yes. Why not?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, they've been outscored, and I could be wrong, but because I have a lot of numbers in my head, but I think they've been outscored 58-6 in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, man.
Which is really, really bad.
That's Brown stats.
They did not get over the 50-yard line into their opposing side until I think the fourth quarter of Sunday's game.
And it was probably on like a PI or something.
Which is really, really bad.
That's terrible.
No receivers. Sam Bradford's only throwing to Larry Fitzgerald. And Larry Fitzgerald pulled his hamstring or something happened with him.
You know who he's not throwing to?
Who?
David Johnson. He didn't have any targets.
It's all bad. It's very, very bad.
I've heard, and you might have seen this because the offensive coordinator there, slipping on his name, doesn't matter, notorious for not throwing to running backs. I think... I might be I think he was working with Gurley like his rookie year, and that was why like Gurley didn't put up, or was Melvin Gordon. Either way, he doesn't throw to his running backs. Yeah. I know that about him. And what's happening is like, David Johnson lost all of last year to his wrist injury, and he had really high expectations. It's not like...
And just got paid.
So he's sitting there literally rotting. It almost feels like a Barry Sanders situation from back in the day. But when did this happen to Arizona? Because I thought they were a good organization.
So they have a first-year head coach in Steve Wilkes, and who I believe is a defensive-minded coach. Yeah. I believe he's been a D coordinator earlier in his career or previously in his career. There's just a lot of problems. There's a lot of things happening. A lot of problems. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's going to get figured out this year, but it's probably very frustrating to lose 34-0. And then lose to I think they lost to the Redskins like 28-6 in the first week or something, or 20.
I think you're right. I think there's a lot to take out of this game, actually, now that you're kind of bringing up these things. It might not have consequence on this season, but there's some things to monitor. If this is a trend for David Johnson, and I keep going back to him because he's the best player on that team.
Yeah.
Him
and Larry Fitz.
But Larry Fitz is on the back nine. I mean, he's on his last 3 holes. I mean, yes. He's the class of the NFL. I love Larry Fitz. Yeah. He's my boy. And I will never doubt Larry Fitz. But there's only so much that one man can do. And if you're not using your running back, there's even less he can do.
I mean, Sam Bradford is literally like only thrown to him.
Right. So
the receiving corps is very bad, very bad.
You sit Bradford because, I mean, so if you don't sit Bradford, he's just going to get injured anyway. I mean, this is inevitable. By week 4, he's going to break his collarbone and he's going to be out. So I'm not too worried about that, but is it too early to say Arizona should just kind of crap out this season and throw it and just rebuild? They've got the rookie quarterback.
I think this is the perfect time to put in Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
I don't think... with the team that they have right now, that they're going to be going very many places this season.
I agree with you.
And so if you're going to prepare for the future, I don't think that that's Sam Bradford.
No.
I think that's going to be Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
And so if it's not that any season's a throwaway season, but if they can't get shit figured out here pretty soon, I would say it's the right time to start Josh Rosen. If I was a Cardinals fan, why not put the kid in?
I think Cardinals fans
you're not scoring any points.
I think Cardinal fans are actually smart people. I just get that feeling. I mean, I'm basing this almost off nothing, so take that with a grain of salt. But it's just my general feeling about Arizona fans is they're intelligent and they're patient. I don't think they have. I think they know what's going on. I think if I was one of them, I would be like you. I'd be calling for Rosen. Because you're at the point, like, if you know you're building a team with a quarterback, and I always think this, the season it's almost like you don't even want to play the season for fear of like major injury. But if you're going to have a season where you know you're going to lose and you have a young quarterback, you have to look at it from the positive and like, look at it from a standpoint of who's going to stick on this team long term. How can I build in a 3, 4, 5 year plan? Which I will talk about. The case in point for this is the Raiders. Like, this is my whole standpoint on like what the Raiders are doing, and the Kalil Mack situation is like, you make sacrifices today to build for tomorrow. And if you're trying to win and it's a lost cause, all you're doing is sacrificing your future. Yeah. So why the F is Bradford in... Can I swear? I don't know. Sure. We haven't determined if we can fucking swear yet.
I don't care.
You're going nowhere with Bradford. You're going nowhere with Bradford. Like, I don't get it. I don't play him. Put the young guy in there. Let him throw to David Johnson. See what you got with your bread and butter. And start looking at those draft picks, right? Like, don't care about winning games. See what happens. Yeah. And I think Arizona fans will welcome that with open arms.
I say it's worth it.
Yeah, but don't stick your all-pro, all-league running back and, like, relatively stick them on the bench,
I know. It sucks.
It's miserable. On the other side, you have the Rams, which I know you're high on. I mean...
The Rams are functioning at a very high level.
They are. I mean, I don't know what to think of Goff. I'm not a Goff believer.
I just think the team as a whole is just...
That's the thing.
I think they've got the young energy in the coach. I think that he's exciting. I think that he's not doing things the way that anybody else is doing things. I think it's inventive. I think it's creative. And I like it. I mean, I think it's cool.
It's wide open for them right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they'll probably go on to win the NFC West. I know everybody, they're high on the list as a Super Bowl favorite this year. And I mean, honestly, I could see it.
It's probably too early to think about, but that's a fun team with the Rams where you have some concrete expectations. I think you can feel pretty comfortable thinking that they're going to win the NFC West. It's wide open, barring some major injury, and even with injury, that team's built. Like, they have depth. Like, that team can afford to lose 2 people. I mean, you can't afford to lose Gurley, in my opinion.
No.
That's like the one guy, like, he's the most important. I think he makes that run because he's just so good. If they lose him, they probably still win the NFC West, but I don't think they have a lot of hopes in the playoffs. But what I think is interesting to look at in the big picture with the Rams is, okay, they're going to win the NFC West. What happens in the playoffs?
Yeah.
Because that's where the rubber meets the road. And then you're thinking, them versus Green Bay, them versus maybe a hot Chicago Bears team. Do they get through Minnesota?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, if you put the Rams, I like the Rams to a point. You put the Rams in a championship game against Minnesota, in Minnesota.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it's
going to get interesting.
And that very well could be what happens.
I mean, the NFC is pretty stacked as far as teams go.
Right. The NFC is stacked. So
a lot of tough teams in the NFC.
So that's my only temperance with the Rams, is to think that the competition, it's not like every year you pencil in the Patriots for a 12-4 season, first round bye, and then we'll see what happens in the AFC Championship game. Yeah. Basically, their season has come down to one game. I think the Rams can have a very nice season. They can put up a lot of wins and break records on offense, because they will.
Yeah.
They can make a deep run into the playoffs. And I think, for me, in my gut right now, it feels like Minnesota's year. And so I don't see the Rams getting over Minnesota if injuries and health stays where it is right now. So I think a successful season for the Rams is make it to the championship game.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Okay, I don't want to spend very long on this, but there are a couple things to talk about. The Oakland-Denver game, that AFC West matchup.
Philip Lindsay,
which is a really cool story.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Because he's undrafted, he's been a stud, he's a Colorado guy. Mm-hmm. He's just so happy to be on the team. He's wearing Terrell Davis's number,
which I didn't think was legal anymore.
Permission from TD.
Oh, so guys, Alex knows TD very well. Terrell Davis. She's in with the Denver Broncos of lore. Yes. And the current team. She went to their training camp. She's very inside this team. So if anyone out there wants Broncos information, this is the place to come, because she's got all the scoops.
I do have
all
some
the
scoops. So Philip Lindsay is a really cool story. And the thing that I was thinking about in this game, I mean, Denver squeaked by with the 2019 win with a last-second field goal.
Sometimes you got to do that.
You have to do it. But Denver didn't look great. Case Keenum looked better than he did last week, but, you know, he still threw for an interception. I think he threw 3 the first week.
Yeah, I think it was ugly.
The Denver defense wasn't great this week.
How is the Denver... Okay, so get to that point, because I think when people... Denver has flown under the radar this year on a national scale.
They have.
And there's been years past where, you know who's back there. You know the Talibs and the Harrises of the world are going to be back there holding it down.
But Talib's not there anymore.
Right.
He's on the Rams.
So what's going on with that D? I think they're going to live and die by that this year.
Yeah, I think the Denver defense is still pretty solid. I mean, we still have, Von Miller's back there, Chris Harris Jr., Bradley Roby. Like we have. It's a solid defense. I don't think it's bad. But I think my takeaway from this game, not so much on the Denver side. I mean, we were fine. We won the game. But we'll see what happens for the rest of the season. Would Kalil Mack on the Raiders defense have made a difference in that game?
Yes.
And that's the only thing I could think about is if Kalil Mack was still on that defense. I mean, I'm happy that he's not in the AFC anymore. I
know you are. Yeah, 100%.
I'm so happy because that would be awful.
Right.
But all I could think was if Kalil Mack was on that D-line, we'd be screwed. There's no way we got out of that game with a win on Sunday.
True. But you gotta play the schedule that's in front of you in the rosters that are fielded.
Yes. But does John Gruden look like a dummy for trading Kalil Mack away, or is it going to be okay? We had this conversation yesterday on the phone.
Yes.
That what is what I'm speechless about it because I'm just like, who would trade him away when he makes your team that much better?
See, that's what gets in the way.
What's Gruden thinking?
That's the giant elephant in the room that blocks your view of everything else that's going on, because there's no way around it. There's no argument or even conversation about why would you get rid of a player like that in the caliber of player that he is and what he brings to your team. The way I view it, I am like the 1% that has this view. I think I feel a number of different ways on this. I agree with Gruden in the sense that he is trying to build a team. He's coming in. He knows he has 10 years. His contract is effing insane.
Yeah.
And also he's planning a move to Vegas. That's set in stone. They've already got billboards up on the strip of him saying, "Get ready for Gruden." Not even the Raiders. Like, get ready for Gruden.
Yeah.
So he doesn't care what happens this season.
Chucky's coming to town.
Yeah. So what happens this season doesn't matter. And so why do you get rid of a guy like that? Well, he even said it, and he was getting shredded in that interview after they traded Mack. Like, you can't pay him. Though.
Gruden is also a competitor, highly competitive.
Yes,
and he wants to win, which to me didn't really make sense of why they traded him was because of that. Because John Gruden, I think, wanted to come in this year and win football games.
He wanted to, but he doesn't have to. And I think there's a difference. You always hear about the coach's hot seat, and he's just so far. He's on the cold seat right now. Like he can do whatever he wants.
True.
And I'll come back to this, and people are going to rip me for this, but I really do believe that he has had that quarterback club, whatever's Gruden's quarterback camp that he gets him through, and he's been studying from afar the way this league is trending. And I think paying attention to taking a step back sometimes and seeing the overall trends can make certain decisions like trading Kalil Mack make some sense. And I mean that in the sense of and I'm obviously going to go back to my boy Tom Brady, but let's even put, I guess Aaron-Rodgers doesn't fit because of his scrambling ability, but the idea is to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly before a guy like Kalil Mack can get in there and do Kalil Mack things. I think Gruden knows that to a point of not having to pay this guy astronomical contract. They couldn't have paid him what he got in Chicago. Couldn't have.
They couldn't
have. He got 2 first-round draft picks, and I think to a coach who's looking at 10 years into the future, 2 first-round draft picks
means a lot.
A lot. Those are some shiny objects right there. And you've got Carr, who is young in a league that's trending towards protecting the quarterback. He has a really long career ahead of him.
Yeah.
Marshawn Lynch is there for the time being. He's not the future. So I think that Gruden knows that, he doesn't have to pay a guy like Mack. He's going to get criticized. He's going to get roasted for it. And it's an overwhelming case for Kalil Mack, but I can see why. I'm just saying I can see why and how he can part with a player like that.
And also, I just don't think Gruden cares about what everybody's saying.
Not at all. I don't think he gives a shit one way or another.
No, I don't think so either.
No, and he doesn't have to. And more power to him. And I think the best coaches in the league are that way. You look at McVay not playing his guys in preseason. That's another guy. I mean, I think the attitude of a coach to survive in a league like this, you have to be Teflon.
Yeah.
You can't be sensitive. Case in point, look at Hugh Jackson in Cleveland. Like, how is this guy still employed in the United States of America?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't even want to get on that topic.
He seems like he should be in the drive-thru of a McDonald's,
messing
up my fillet of fish, because he still wouldn't get it right.
Gosh,
but it's a joke. It's an absolute joke, but it provides us with plenty of comedy.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Okay, so let's talk about your team, New England.
Okay, we're going.
Patriots.
This is an hour podcast, people. We thought we were going to struggle to fill the time, and here we are.
Jacksonville. Okay, so they played Jacksonville. People are talking about, is Jacksonville the real deal? Blake Bortles threw for 4 touchdowns. What was the score of the game? 31-20?
31-20, and it wasn't even that close.
I mean, I know Brady had a bad day because he is on my fantasy team, and him and Gronk also on my fantasy team, did not put up Brady and Gronk numbers.
He did not put up Brady numbers, but what's funny about that is Brady on a bad day still has over 100 passer ratings. So.
Well, of course.
Right,
that's to be expected.
And
but when we're used to Tom Brady putting up better numbers than that,
yes,
for a very long time, I'm used to that.
All right.
So it's just like, it's just an easy 30 points in fantasy when you have Brady in your lineup.
And it will be for the rest of the season. And we can get into the Josh Gordon.
What happened in that game?
Okay, I could go off on a rant, and for so many different reasons.
Don't go off on a rant, but
it's week 2, and that can't be emphasized enough. The Patriots, we all remember the famous KC game where Dilfer came out and said, they're just not good anymore. And then they go off and they rattle off an insane amount of games, and they go and they win the Super Bowl over Seattle. So we shouldn't be... I don't think there's any story about the fall off of the Patriots. I think they're going to be there. They're going to be fine. They're going to right the ship. I don't think that we should spend too much time actually talking about that. Josh Gordon is very intriguing.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because the Patriots are going to be the Patriots.
Going back to the game real quick, just the one thing I do want to say without going too deep into the Jacksonville game, because I do think Jacksonville is for real as contenders, and by the time
they look good.
So much is dependent on injury, and I know that's a cop out. That's like not giving a real answer, but literally between these teams, they are an injury of tipping the scales one way or another, or home field advantage. So that's one of those things you can't really speak to. The only thing I can say is that Jacksonville will be in the picture by the end of it, because I do believe that they're real. But what happened in that game, defensively for the Patriots and offensively for Jacksonville, without Leonard Fournette, which I actually think played into their hands more, because the way you attack the Patriots is by spreading them out. Right. You can try to gut them and play the clock. Yeah. But you're never going to beat Brady and Belichick on the clock. If you try to grind them out, they're going to find a way in the end of the game still, because it's so low scoring.
Right.
You need to try to put their feet to the fire. And what I saw in that game were wide receivers running wide open on crossing routes. Wide open. Made Bortles look like Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And do I think Bortles is going to play like that for the rest of the season? Absolutely not. I don't believe in Bortles in that way. Do I think he'll do what he did last year and be kind of like, steer the ship so it doesn't, get derailed? I think he can do that. And ride off that defense, and if Fournette stays healthy. But the Patriots have real struggles on the defensive side of the ball. But again, they get better as the season goes along.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
They'll be fine.
And now with the addition of Josh Gordon,
so I'm giddy. Like, I'm absolutely giddy about this.
I think this is great.
This is unbelievable.
I think it's going to be an amazing fit.
Do you have any inside knowledge on this that I should know? I haven't picked your brain on this yet, because the Twitter world, is obviously ripping they want to be shit talkers.
I was trying to figure out what happened with him in Cleveland, though. Was it because of the injury? Was it because they're just sick of dealing with him?
I think that's it.
Did something happen where they made him feel like they're sick of dealing with him, so they want to trade him? I was still like trying to process it and be like, what happened for them to want to part ways with one of the best receivers in the league?
It's more on the Browns than it is on the Patriots. Yeah. Because, we all know that there's a connection between those organizations. Right. I call the Browns the Patriots farm system for a reason. Right. And that's where we dump our trash and we pick up theirs. So it's just like...
I wouldn't call Josh Gordon trash. But...
Well, well, we got their gem and we dumped Jamie Collins on them, who was this, touted linebacker that has basically been sent to obscurity. He's been sent to Siberia.
Yeah.
And I loved Jamie Collins. But to the point of what, from a Browns perspective, because I think there's no question the upside for Josh Gordon and the Patriots is obvious. If everything goes right, that's insane.
Yeah.
But, we have to wait and see if he can get it together. And he's in the perfect place to get it together. But for the Browns, to your point, what would make them, especially with Baker Mayfield, there's a lot of tread on Gordon's tires. He hasn't been playing.
I feel like there's something that went on there that we don't know about yet.
Why now?
That maybe we'll never know about.
I want the story in my heart to be like, this is not the truth. This is a fantasy. But I want the truth to be like, we've seen you go through so much ups and downs, Josh Gordon. We have a soft spot in our heart for you, but we just can't go on that ride anymore. We want to send you to a place where we know you can get better. I don't believe that's the case. I want to believe that's the case because why invest so much into somebody? Ride it out with them. They didn't with Manziel.
For a long time.
They didn't at all with Johnny Manziel. So this is totally a matter of like talent. Talent trumps all in this league. People can't forget that, this is hypocrisy and how could they do this and not this? Like, don't overcomplicate it. It's about talent.
Yeah.
Can you play? And he can play. He can be the best in the league. So why right now?
Yeah.
Why now? After everything, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you if you have any inside information. Because all of a sudden, he goes to a promo shoot and comes up with a hamstring injury.
Yeah.
Which people are saying is fake. Like he faked it to get out of Cleveland.
Yeah, I have no idea.
So did he pull the trigger, or did he call for an out?
I wish I knew something.
I know. I wish I knew something too. I'm cool with it because he's on my team now, and
it's gonna be great for you guys
if he can perform. He honestly, I've heard great things about his football IQ. Going back to that, they would say, "Can he be the next Moss?"
Right.
And I watched Moss from his rookie year. I watched Moss and Marshall, and that's a guy who could get on the same wavelength as Brady on the field. They can read the defensive coverages and they can tell each other where they're going to go.
Yeah.
Can Gordon do that? I've heard he actually can.
Well,
I think that's underrated with him.
We will see. Okay, a couple more games to get to here that we wanted to talk about, which, we don't have to talk about in depth, but the Giants in Dallas was Sunday Night Football.
Okay, quick hitter on this, because I know there's a lot of depth
Dallas,
to this.
Yeah, there is. Well, so Dak Prescott, a lot of people have been like, where's Dak Prescott from 2016? And he hasn't been like that. And Ezekiel Elliott had his suspension, and then he came back. There's just kind of, it seems like everybody was like, if they don't win in week 2, like, shit's going to hit the fan, and what's happening, and what do we do, and all this stuff. So, the Giants don't look great.
No.
So, I'm not surprised that the Cowboys won that game, but I still think they have some issues and some things to work out. Is Jason Garrett on the hot seat?
No,
he'll
never be on the hot seat. No, he's not.
There's all this stuff about Jerry Jones and Des Bryant hanging out at the Beyonce Jay-Z concert.
That's suspect.
There's all this stuff that's surrounding that organization. Not that I'm surprised because it's Jerry Jones.
It always is. Yeah.
But I just think it'll be interesting to see what happens the rest of the season with Dak and with Ezekiel and that Cowboys offensive line. And we talked about that yesterday too, with Travis Frederick being out, with Guillain-Barré syndrome, which actually my father had while he also played in the NFL.
Can you explain that? What is this?
So Guillain-Barré syndrome, I think it's like an immune thing. I was so young when my dad had it, but it's really dangerous. It can kill you.
Jeez.
And my dad got over it. So when the news came out that Travis Frederick had that, my dad was getting a lot of phone calls because he's, I think, the only other guy that played in the NFL that had it.
Leave it to your dad to be like the guy.
Of course.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're without Travis Frederick, who's their center, who's the staple of that offensive line.
Huge position. Very underrated position.
I guess it's just going to be interesting to see how the Cowboys season plays out because everybody's expecting them to perform at a high level with Zeke and Dak.
They always expect the Cowboys. I think we always overinflate
America's
what they're going to...
team, right?
Well, to be debated. But yes, I guess people still carry them under that title. I think, again, you laid it out perfectly, and in what you said is the real story without overcomplicating it. So you have the offensive line problems that starts there with Dallas because they've always had the offensive line.
Yeah.
But is their offensive line good enough for Ezekiel Elliott to have a successful season? Yes, I still believe they're still good enough for that. Is Dak Prescott a good enough quarterback to run that ship? I believe in Dak Prescott. I really like him. I think what's happening here is you get rid of your main outside threat that was falling off.
Well, you're without Des Bryant and Jason Witten now.
But yeah, and exactly. So
those are two kind of givens for a quarterback.
Witten's like the security blanket, but Witten isn't Witten without the other pieces. Like Witten fits into a system where they can't, because you have to stack the box against Zeke.
Right.
And they can do that right now. Any team can just stack the box. They can put who is Dallas passing to?
Right.
Like, is Cole Beasley going to beat you?
Cole Beasley is their guy.
Say what you want to say about Dez, if he fell off or not, which now with Josh Gordon going to New England, I think that opens the door for a return. That rendezvous with Jerry Jones aside, I don't even think that had anything to do with it. But
it had nothing to do with football.
Right.
Is what all the reports were saying was that it was just two friends. Jerry Jones is friends with a lot of his former football players.
Yeah.
They didn't even talk about football.
Right.
They were just there to enjoy On the Run too.
Which is understandable, and I'll buy it. That's fine. And if you don't buy it and you think they're talking football, fine. I wouldn't even be surprised about that either. Either way, it doesn't make a difference to me. I think if he sits out long enough, if he can get off the ledge a little bit about his contract and come back at a reasonable price, he'll come back. It'll make it much that he's still a threat. He still knows how to play the game. If he lost 100%. A step, whatever. But he doesn't even have to beat his coverage. He just has to garner coverage.
Right.
No one on that team even asks for coverage right now.
Yeah.
So even just lightening the load on Dak and Zeke, I think that can help propel Dallas to some success. Do I think they're in the running for a championship? No, I just don't think that's the team we're looking at right now.
Yeah.
But are they as bad as we've seen so far? No, and I think their win over the Giants actually was impressive to me because the question marks I had always about Dallas was their defense, and that's a potent offense in New York. Like Saquon Barkley, Odell Beckham, Manning can still sling it no matter what you want to say about him.
Yeah.
He can still put up stats, whether he knows what he's doing or not, and he just does. He's there. He's in a uniform.
Yeah.
So
he just doesn't run very many places.
I think if he doesn't run anywhere,
No.
And he's not expected to. But I think they could be a dark horse team if they can bring in that piece, whether it's Dez. There's really nobody else out there.
Yeah.
You can pick up Corey
Well, I
Coleman.
mean, there was rumors about Josh Gordon going to Dallas as well. It was Dallas and New England.
Right.
Those
Now
were the
he's
two
out.
teams, and obviously now he's out. So,
but I mean, Gordon could be off the Patriots by the end of the week, and then he could be in Dallas. That's another. But we just can't say it because it doesn't. Why would you say something that looks like it's not going to happen? But that could actually happen.
Yeah.
But I think if I had to predict, I'd say that Dez comes back on some reasonable terms.
I think that'd be crazy.
And they can have an outside chance to get the wild card, maybe. That seems right for them. Stay healthy, add the piece, get the wild card, maybe scare some people in the playoffs. Who knows?
Yeah.
They're still the Dallas Cowboys. I do believe in Dak. I think he's a good dude, and I think he's a good quarterback. Yeah. I think he's right around Russell Wilson.
I was just going to say, I feel like he's Cam Newton-ish. Like
Cam Newton.
He can throw the ball. He can run. I think if they start implementing that a little bit more.
But he's not as much of a me guy as Cam.
He's not, but I'm just saying.
He's not going to poach touchdowns on the goal line.
As far as his abilities go.
Right.
He has the ability to be able to be a running quarterback and a passing quarterback.
Well, you're right, because Cam was the MVP of the league, and I think that I can't say that Dak's better because there's something about Cam. He's got a special gene in him. Yeah. I hate Cam.
I know you do.
But he is a stud.
He's a stud.
I hate the way he plays. I hate the way he acts.
But you can't deny his ability.
On my fantasy team, and he's putting up 30 points a week, so I can't completely hate. But I do really like Dak. Let's just put it that way. I like Dak a lot.
Okay, so lastly, last night, Monday, we had Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Chicago and Seattle.
Very intriguing.
So it really was, and it actually turned out to be a good game. So there's been a lot of conversation around Seattle. We saw Chicago win the game last night. I think Chicago, even though they lost to the Packers week 1, I mean, you're up against Aaron-Rodgers, and he does crazy shit. But
it was just crazy.
It was insane. Who can do that? But I think Chicago looks great. with
Me
Mitchell
too.
Trubisky. Like, I know that you said they probably need another year.
Right, yeah. It
But
feels like another year.
I feel like they're a playoff team.
Okay, so another year. When I say another year, I think like to actually be considered a contender because it's all
A Super Bowl contender.
We'll see how far Trubisky can go. I don't think he's like I think Patrick Mahomes is better than him.
I think Trubisky looks poised.
Yes.
I feel like he looks calm. I don't feel like he looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. Like,
I'll tell you this.
I see a pretty composed quarterback.
Yes, he has weapons. People don't think he has a lot of weapons. Those wide receivers, like, they don't have names yet, but they could have names soon.
Right. And
So-
now that defense is kind of a scary defense.
I picked up the defense. They are absolutely legit.
They had 5 sacks
They're for
in
real.
the first half.
Oh, they're for real.
And I know Russell Wilson's not working with a lot on his team right now, and I think that there's probably some locker room stuff going on there.
There's always locker room stuff going on in Seattle, and there's always locker room stuff going on with Russell Wilson. Remember what they said a couple years or last year or whatever about him, which I can't repeat because I am a white man, but I can't repeat it.
Yeah, so Pete Carroll, they're really trying to fight this, and I say this in quotes, rebuild year. Like,
You can't rebuild in Seattle with Russell Wilson.
They're really trying to avoid saying that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, after these first couple games, there's a lot of things that are being rebuilt.
Yeah.
And I think it's an important season for Russell Wilson and for Pete Carroll because they're both, I think, kind of nearing the end of their contracts in the next year or two. So I think it's an important season for the both of them. The O-line is not great. I mean, Russell Wilson got sacked 6 times in Denver. And I don't know how many last night, but 5 in the first half.
And the stats for his sacks are always off. They should probably be more because he avoids so many. So it's even worse.
He avoids so many because he can scramble.
This is a problem going back to last year. In the last few years, he hasn't had an offensive line, but now they've gutted that defense.
Yeah.
The line is no better, and he has no weapons. I mean, he's throwing to Tyler Lockett, who just got a fat contract, but I'm sorry, it's Tyler Lockett.
They have Tyler Lockett. They have kind of
Baldwin's
a lot
gone.
of Baldwin's out for a little while, not for the whole season, but a little while. So they had to activate some guys from the practice squad, and then they have Will Dissly, who actually
he's
had the greatest game for a tight end in his first game, I think, ever.
Yeah, that's one of the ones. Like,
and so everybody was like, "Oh my gosh!" Right, like it was. He had the greatest game. He had like more than 100 yards, and kind of came out of nowhere. But yeah, I mean, other than that, there's some pretty known Nick Vanette, I think, and Tyler Lockett, and Will Dissly, and it's I couldn't even probably Keenan Reynolds.
That's why I asked the question. It's like, don't listen to what they say. Look at what they do, and A, they're losing games. B, they gave a fat contract to their second wide receiver. There's dissension in the locker room.
They had the Earl Thomas holdout.
Yeah, Earl Thomas holdout. So
the defense is not functioning high. They've had a lot of moving parts on defense a lot of rookies.
I just think rebuilding is generous for them. I think that's giving them credit where it's not due. I think they let this thing fall apart by negligence. It feels like that because when you're rebuilding, you at least have like a contingency plan and you draft like accordingly. And it seems like they are kind of falsely going into the season with expectations higher than they can reach.
Yeah.
It's like they're not the team they used to be. And so to say like, we're going to, it's so funny that this game happened where the expectations are so on polar opposites. It's like, if the Bears don't make the playoffs, no one's surprised. And it's like, okay, they can still have a good season that said it was a success. If they go to the playoffs and succeed, or even go to the playoffs, it's like, wow, look at this great season that Chicago had. If Seattle makes the playoffs, it's like, oh, well, it's Seattle. We expect them to. But, I don't think they are going to. And if they miss, that's really bad. It's like, two teams going the complete opposite ways. And it's going to be interesting. It's like, it seems broken. It just seems broken.
Yeah, I still think there's some lingering things there from that loss in the Super Bowl to the Patriots.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there was a lot of players and probably personnel that were mad after that loss.
It seems like they're staying together for the kids, like a married couple.
Right. They're
like they won't get divorced.
We gotta stick it out.
Yeah.
We gotta make sure we appear happy.
Yeah. As
and
soon as the door closes,
really happening.
No, the door closes and they're down each other's throats.
Right.
And it's just like
let's just keep the kids happy. And let's try to keep it together.
Russell Wilson has this blank look on his face, like he's just in shock, like he doesn't know what's going on in his life. He's developed a drinking problem, and
I don't think Russell Wilson's developing a drinking problem.
It maybe went too close to the analogy. Yeah, but the equivalent of that, but if I'm Russell Wilson, I mean, he's still stuck. Come on. Russell Wilson's under fire all game, and then he drops that absolute dime into Lockett into the end zone.
Defensive coordinators don't love going up against Russell Wilson, and I wouldn't either.
I mean, if I was him, I'd almost be like, I'm not going out onto that field to put my body in jeopardy. Like, you need to, trade me, pay me more, or, figure this out. Like, you need to do something.
When he threw that interception late in the game last night, and the pick six, and he tried to go for the tackle, but he almost put no effort into it. He was like meh, whatever. I mean, it was the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But I mean, you
had to make the returner do. You can't just give him a straight path.
Yeah,
you got to make him move a little bit.
You tried to make a long grab far away. From him.
If I'm Seattle, though, Brady did that last year, I think it was, he threw a pick. I think it was in the Super Bowl against Atlanta in the first half. And it was funny. It was a meme afterwards. He does this half-assed dive to try to tackle. Right. It's I don't want you there. I don't want you anywhere near. You threw the pick. You've hurt our team enough. Move away.
Yeah,
let
you
them
just
score.
don't. No one wants to see their quarterback trying to make tackles with the potential of getting hurt.
No, it was fun and it was cute when Brett Favre was doing things like that because you expect that garbage out of him. But
your quarterback gets hurt.
Those days are over. It's you can't even tackle a quarterback anymore. What are you having your quarterback tackle other people? Let's not go there.
Just don't do it.
Just don't do it. But I think we've properly pegged Seattle. They are staying together for the kids.
They are.
Yeah, so
it's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and they're going to develop a drinking habit, and maybe have an affair. I don't know how that happens in football terms, but it's going down a slippery slope, and somebody's going to get hurt.
Someone's going to get hurt
and have grow up weird. But that's Seattle. And I'm not happy, but I don't dislike Seattle necessarily. They didn't do anything to me except for hand me a Super Bowl. So
still can't believe that decision.
Pete Carroll still hasn't lived that down. And you know what? As crazy as it sounds, that's still there. That decision. That decision is still lingering over that team
100%
today. That's like going back to the broken marriage analogy. It's oh, you cheated on me 5 years ago, and I forgave you. But every time I look at you, I'm sick to my stomach.
Still think about it.
Yeah, see, that's more accurate.
Yeah.
It's every time Russell Wilson looks at Pete Carroll, he's look what you did to me. You embarrassed me in front of the neighborhood. When I go to drop off little Joey at his friend's house, I can't even look his parents in the eye because I'm so ashamed. That's what's going on here.
Okay.
They're in it for the kids, yeah. But did we go over
everything we wanted to talk about today. We went long. We were we're going to do an hour.
An hour and a half now.
But, it's our trial run.
It's all right. People love us already.
They do?
This is great. This is going swimmingly.
Yeah, great.
Watch this. None of this recorded. It's
all
coming in muffled.
I'm not doing this again today, but if this doesn't work out, maybe we'll try later in the week.
No, you can't expect to be perfect twice in a day.
Yeah.
Should we do quick picks for primetime picks next week, or pick our favorite teams? How about because we're going to come back and we're going to review. I don't think we necessarily have to pick the primetime games, but real quick, right now, week 2, Super Bowl.
Let me pull up the schedule here.
A Super Bowl matchup.
A Super Bowl matchup?
Right now, who's the strongest team in the league? Who's the favorite to win the Super Bowl?
Well, what are the Vegas odds for the Super Bowl? The Rams?
Well, see, this is funny. I haven't checked since Gordon went on to the Patriots, and I think Vegas might react to that.
I think the new NFL rankings came out today, and
come prepared on this show.
If I'm not mistaken, the Rams are number 1 on that list, with the Jags coming in number 2, then the Chiefs, then the Pats.
See, this is why you tune into things like this, because you can't believe what you read everywhere. Those rankings, to me, You have to consider all factors. And so if we've seen this, we watch football every year and we see it. It's like on paper, the teams on paper are seldom the teams to go all the way.
I am going to say, I think the Rams could be in the Super Bowl.
They could be in.
This year
Are you going to put
NFC.
your name behind it? Week 2, you can change your mind later, but week 2, see them doing it?
I mean, there's some talented teams in the NFC, but I'll say my heart wants the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. Also, I love Sean McVay. I love what he's doing there. I think he's super creative and thinks outside the box, and I think that sometimes goes really far.
It's his second year. I think that's a good year to do it.
I think he's willing to take risks, which is great.
100%. You need to. You have to.
He hasn't been conservative, and I think that's served that team well.
They can do it now and not be conservative. I think less weapons around Goff, you're going to have to change that tune. But
the AFC, I think, is wide open.
Wide open with
I
like
think
2 or 3 teams, or
I think
wide
there's
open?
some normal teams that I think will be good. I think the Patriots will be there. I think the Steelers are going to be right up there.
See, even with all that drama, they're still penciling in Pittsburgh to go.
I think that those are only the 2 teams that I can think about right now.
Okay, Jacksonville, KC, not for you?
I mean,
those are the next 2 teams to me.
KC, yeah. I mean, it's week 2.
It's week 2. I know.
So I'd say then those 4 teams right now are probably the top 4 teams in the AFC.
Patriots, Pittsburgh is the smart money right now, I think.
Always.
Especially with the addition of Gordon. Honestly, I'm so wrapped up in that team that before we got the addition of Gordon, and I'm not sitting here putting all my chips in that basket or eggs in that basket, chips on the table, but it does make a difference. I mean, before Gordon, I think AFC Championship, and we're lucky. We still have Gronk. Edelman will be there. Sonny Michel's looking like he could be a stud if he stays healthy. That defense will get better. Brady, Belichick, all of that. AFC Championship, yes. Super Bowl, Jacksonville is a little scary. I'm not going to overreact to what just happened.
I have a hard time with Bortles.
But that's what I was going to say. Is I have a hard time with Bortles and Fournette staying healthy.
Yeah.
Defense, I don't think wins championships anymore. That is the old saying. I don't think that's the way the league is anymore. It just can't be with the rules. So then I do look towards Pittsburgh, but I've seen that story play out so many times. Like, just the Patriots own Pittsburgh. So, like, if it's Pittsburgh versus Jacksonville AFC Championship, I could see it going down that way.
Yeah.
But if you put my feet to the fire now, and this is solely on optimism for Josh Gordon, I do think it's probably Patriots again. They're going to really try to strike for it with Brady coming down the home stretch here and Gronk also coming down the home stretch here.
Yeah.
And Edelman. I mean, they're not spring chickens
Gronk
anymore.
Can stay healthy.
So that's the easy. You knew I was going to go there. I'll probably pick them every week and never budge from that position, and I'll probably end up looking smart for it because that's the way it goes. Well, fine. I'll take that risk. But NFC, I'm sort of with you with the Rams, but I think it's Minnesota's year. I think Minnesota, they almost did it last year. I think they get it this year.
Minnesota missed their chance to win the Super Bowl in their home state.
I'm a fan of Kirk Cousins. I think he's a hell of a quarterback, and I think as he grows in that system, you add Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs, Thielen, and then we haven't even talked about their defense yet. So it's like, that's the team to me that's built to win.
Yeah, they're good. And you can never count out the Packers. I mean, they find ways to win. All right, guys, we are done.
Yeah, so we'll be back next week. We're going to do a weekly recap. Right now, we don't have a show email, so if you want to reach out with any questions, topics that you want us to cover, suggestions for where the show should go, segments, jokes, games, you can reach out to me personally. My email is supafrank25. That's super with a Boston accent. So that's SUPAH25 at gmail.com. Yes, I have not grown up since 8th grade. Proud of it.
You only spelled Supa in
Supa
25.
Frank. Well, they know how to spell Frank. Supa Frank. So SUPAHFRAN, spell my name with a K, 25 at Gmail. Do you want to give yours just in case?
No.
Leave it to me? Yeah, don't contact her personally. That's weird. We don't want weird people contacting her.
I don't need all that.
So you can contact me on my email now. Submit questions, suggestions, games if you have them, over-unders. We'll try to tackle it all. And I guess we'll see you next week after Further Review podcast.
After Further Review with Alex and Frankie.
All right. See you next week.